I think really where it started for me is really thinking about my ethos, which is be the person you once needed. I'm a firm believer that representation without responsibility is a missed opportunity.
Ooh, of course. I just said that. Ooh, thank you.
I mentioned earlier, your confidence and value isn't tied to your job or your title. Confidence is when you are deeply rooted in who you are as an individual. What I've also learned over time is that people don't really care. Because people if people are going to like you, they're going to like you. If you're connecting with people, you're going to connect with people. My whole philosophy is that you need to surround yourself with people who are builders, who are creators, who are doers, who are makers, people who are dreamers, people who believe in you, people that are going to push you, because they are the ones who are going to help you return to your higher self over and over and over again.
Hello, welcome to Unfiltered with Mariat. I am here to have real conversations that inspire, challenge, and connect us. Together, we will dive into stories that matter, build authentic connections, and uncover strategies to grow capital, whether it's financial, social, or personal. No filters, no holding back, just impactful discussion with incredible change makers and visionaries. Let's grow together. Join me. Unfiltered with Mariat. Well, who do we have here on Unfiltered with Mariat podcast? Selena Woo, who is one amazing powerhouse woman, a total gem in Vancouver. I was so proud to have you. So who is Selena Woo?
Well, thank you so much, Mariat. You're also powerhouse women, so it feels amazing to be able to be here today and have this conversation. So my official title would be Vice President Private Wealth Associates at Nicola Wealth.
Wow.
But unofficial title is just Selena Woo, because we don't define our worth by title.
Oh, well, I like that. We don't define our worth by title. Yes.
Yes, and by the job that we do.
That's why I see what you do day in, day out outside your professional work, and you're into so many other stuff. So please go deeper and tell us, Selena, what you do, because I see you around social impact, that, so much community work you do and so much support you give women like myself. So come on, Selena, we want to know more. Tell us.
Okay, well, thank you. I would say definitely since having kids. So I have 2 young children. I have a 12-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son. And since becoming a parent, my perspective has really shifted, and especially as it relates to growing my career. So when you think about growing your career, building your career, you do get to a certain stage in your career where you think, okay, it's no longer really about you and your individual ambition, but it's really around who do you bring up with you and how are you doing that? How are you lifting others as you rise?
Wow.
So for me, when I think about my kids, I just want to ensure that I am carving a path so that for them, they aren't going to experience barriers due to their gender or ethnicity, especially for my daughter. And that really is where social impact and community building really comes forward for me. So as you mentioned, I'm on various committees and do a lot of volunteer work with the Vancouver Chinatown Foundation. Took years, I would say decades, for me to fully embrace my cultural upbringing and proud to be Chinese. And so since working with Carol, the Vancouver Chinatown Foundation, have built an incredible group of friends and network where we're all rallying around the same cause. As it relates to women, as you mentioned, Mariat, so various causes. I'm on the activation committee for the forum, really lifting up women entrepreneurs. I'm the chair for the upcoming Dress for Success luncheon in November.
Okay.
Because it really is around the belief where when you lift up one woman, you're not just helping her, you're helping her entire community, which includes her family and her children. And that's really where you do break the barriers and you break the cycle. Is really around that next generation and what we can do to support. I also deliver workshops for Dress for Success and helping women with financial literacy, building confidence, and personal branding.
I really love everything you've just unpacked right now, Selena. So if I can summarize that, you're really big, very dedicated into gender equity. And you see that in form of like presentation. How does those women present themselves? So you got into Dress for Success. I like the part when you talked about embracing your cultural aspect, and doing work for Chinatown. So let's go back, because Cavalier is a big name. She's an household name. She's one amazing. I'm just so honored to know her. I've actually had the honorable opportunity to sit on the same seat with Caroline at a diversity conference where we were the panelists.
Amazing.
And that was the first time I met her, and we just took off from there. So she's an incredible person, and I was able to learn more about the challenges in Chinatown and futures and the things that they're planning. So talking about that cultural aspect, at what point did you feel, I'm embracing all about my identity being Chinese and I want to give back to my community. I want to support my community because I think that's really powerful for where you are and looking at how marginalized community could not be seen in such lens, like you being a vice president for a great organization like that. So can you weave that? Because other women are looking at you for, all the amazing work you do, like we're dressed for success. So can you weave that for me into that cultural aspect? Those other Chinese women looking up to you and saying, yeah, that's Selena. So,
I think really where it started for me is really thinking about my ethos, which is be the person you once needed. So early in my career in finance, especially.
can you
And
pause?
sure.
Say that again. Be the person
You once needed.
Ooh, that's
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah. And for me, it really came from my lived experiences. Being young, starting my career in finance in the wealth management industry, I never knew what was possible. I couldn't see higher because I couldn't see any role models who looked like me, other BIPOC women or Asian women in executive leadership positions. And so a lot of years were spent for me in more supporting type roles because that was normal, because that's all you could see. And for me, when I started building my career into different roles, was really around thinking, what can I do to ensure that others aren't going to be feeling that way? Because that really is the only way to affect change, is when you're driving impact through visibility. Because it's also really important. I think, Mariat, you would agree with this. I'm a firm believer that representation without responsibility is a missed opportunity.
Ooh, of course. I just said that. Ooh, thank you. Ooh.
And that is why I do a lot of that community work, as you mentioned, is to be that visible representation. It's not obligation, it's a responsibility. And I feel like the different pillars for me as a parent, as an individual, is really around youth, women, and underserved. So youth, I forgot to mention as well, I sit on the board for junior achievement. So again, next gen is really about the next generation, looking at my kids and youth, and then women and underserved. But when it comes to leadership for me, I have to be able to be proud of who I am and where I've come from to be authentic as a leader.
100%.
And so if I don't embrace that part of me who is Chinese, then that's going to really hinder my ability to show up vulnerable and being authentic, and also showing others that they can see themselves in future leadership roles.
Wow.
Because confidence, Mariat, it's like, I know you mentioned even yourself, like so many awards, accolades, and achievements, which I am so proud to see. I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders.
Thank you.
But confidence doesn't come from that. I mentioned earlier, your confidence and value isn't tied to your job or your title. Confidence is when you are deeply rooted in who you are as an individual. In order to be deeply rooted in who you are as a person, you have to be proud to wrap your arms around your cultural identity and be proud of where you've come from and who you are.
That's deep.
Took a long time for me to get there.
It took me, it was just like traveling. I was like, keep talking. This is amazing. You used the word vulnerable, talking about being vulnerable in terms of your whole identity, in terms of who you are. And I always say this a lot. I find that sometimes most people are really very scared about being vulnerable, or sometimes you find some people really being ashamed of their culture. They want to associate. And I always say, if you don't, then you can't use the word authentic. You have no self-awareness of who you are, right? And how can you be a confident leader? Because those things will drag you back and they will hurt you as well when you're in the boardroom.
Absolutely. And then how are you role modeling for others? So how are you role modeling for others in the room who are of different ethnicities? How do you role model for your kids? So for my kids, they're of mixed race, but they need to see that I'm proud of the Chinese side of them. And so it's almost like, again, how are we paying it forward, reaching back, lifting up, so that everyone feels like they belong and that they are where they're supposed to be because of who they are?
I think you've just actually ate DI for breakfast right now today because what you said, belonging, vulnerability, showing up, identity, all the stuff are really huge. I do like the way you just bisect everything in terms of your intersectionality as well. Talking about, this strong female person that you are and this job that you do, people looking up to you, and then you remember now, wait a minute, I have a 12 years old and a 9 years old. I want to leave a legacy. I want to build a path for them.
Yeah.
I want them that they will be able to follow confidently, So I got to do this work for, the younger ones for them to see. And I also have to do this work for marginalized women who need to look up and say, if Selena is here, I can be here. And then you're equipping them with financial literacy, presentation and all the things they need to get there. So those things are great, but there's still challenges, Selena.
Oh, there's still challenges for sure. I think we're making progress, but there's a long way to go. And that's when I think about the different aspects of when I roll it backwards, is that my career runway is very different than the career runway of someone in their 20s or 30s. Mm-hmm. So it's really around the work that we're doing today. It is for the people beside and behind us. And that's really, when you think of it that way, we all have that responsibility. And you talked earlier about legacy and vulnerability in the business. And so in our business, we talk a lot about leaving a legacy. So we do a lot of planning, financial planning for individuals to think about what legacy they want to leave. But the way I like to look at it is, what's the legacy you want to live? And then how are you living that legacy today? And so I think about that with all the work that I'm doing and that role modeling and being that representation for others. And then what I've learned along the way is that vulnerability is, once you speak and once you share your story and the vulnerability, then others will also share their stories. Like, yes, I absolutely felt that way. Because the challenges are, when you're in a world that was never really designed for you to begin with, that's something else. We talk a lot about imposter syndrome, but it has nothing to do with your capabilities or your abilities.
No,
the reality is that we are operating in an environment where it wasn't built for us or designed. So we have to work extra hard at what we bring forward. I share my story that when I first started out in Vancouver or networking or meeting people, I would always make it a point to say, I'm from Calgary, so that people would think, okay, she's not really that Chinese because she's from Calgary. But that really is how I felt.
I've been there.
Right?
Oh my God,
we talked about
is important. Yes. This is so, oh my God, this is so heartfelt. Oh my goodness.
Yes, especially when I moved to Vancouver. In my career, clients on the phone would say, oh, your English is so good. And I'm like, of course it's good. I'm born in Canada. I'm born in Calgary. But then I found that I would always introduce myself and say, I'm from Calgary. I would say it extra loud. So people would also think, oh, well, she's not from Richmond. She speaks English. She's from Calgary. That is a stereotype. And so it's taken me years now, though, to say and be proud to say I am Chinese Canadian. And I am so proud of the work that Carol and the Vancouver Chinatown Foundation are doing to revitalize Chinatown, not just for the Chinese people, but for everybody. It's this enclave of richness for everyone to enjoy and to experience.
That's so deep. So we all do this then.
Yes, together.
Because I actually immigrated from England and I came here to Canada, and I did find the corporate world really very challenging for you to get into. You were not expected to just apply and get into some positions. You're always reminded, oh my God, this level is for this position? I'm like, yeah, I know. But you just hit that because now I felt it, and I feel now, like many other women will be listening, I'm not the only one. I'm not alone.
Yeah. And that's where you need to be vulnerable and share those stories. And you talked earlier about newcomers to Canada or the work with Dress for Success. And that's where I try and host these workshops and to work with these women, because I had immigrant parents that were immigrants to Canada. They didn't have a network to share my resume with. So how are individuals that are coming to Canada, newcomers, how are they building their network to get into the right positions? How are they achieving
connections? Yes. Important.
And so how are they building them? Exactly. And how are they building financial independence? Well, they need to have the knowledge to give them power for financial independence, but also too, like, how are they stepping into knowing what the opportunities are? Because we have a responsibility to help and ensure everyone is seen and heard. Because I think about my career that I'm really proud of is really building it on my own without my parents' networks, because as immigrants, they didn't have
They
any.
didn't have any, so you have to build it up,
Yeah.
and that also kind of give you that, which I don't really believe that we have any superhero cape, but I mean, it gives you the superpower to just pop up on your confidence and say, you know what, I have to make this happen. I have to
Mhm.
not be my parents, and that's one big part. Like sometimes our cultural aspect is great, but we don't want to be so complacent and feel we don't belong there, so we don't going to look for that. You're just going to dust off your certificate and just do some kind of admin job because this is where you're expected to be. You're not expected to be a VP, EVP, or anything like that, you know? Yeah, this is deep and I love it because I go to spaces sometimes and you see the energy around and you just know I've got to let them know I'm from England when I came here. They've got to not look at me that I'm just coming direct from Nigeria and I'm like, who cares?
Yeah.
So it took me a while to kind of reprogram that. I said, no.
Yeah.
Normally I would say, oh, I'm Mariat, I'm from Milton Keynes, England. I came here 2014, and some code switching aspect for them to believe me. And I had to dish the English accent really because I wanted to embrace, like you said, be vulnerable, embrace all of me. And oftentimes you'll find me on social media playing Nigerian music, eating my Nigerian food,
Love
and I'm
it.
just
Love
being
it.
myself because
Yeah.
if I don't promote my culture, who is going to do that? Because it's only the nuisance they want to talk about, but they don't want to talk about the other good aspect. And every culture, every community, either you're Caucasian, Asian, or anything, we cannot predict anyone, but we know the culture are real, they're authentic, they're good, right?
For
So
sure.
we need to find ways to curb out unconscious biases, and that's a big one. And I
That
think it
is.
happens
Yeah.
so frequently at work. So what's your experience? Have you I don't want to talk about your corporate office because it's not, we're talking about Selena today. But in terms of your experiences with unconscious biases, when people say, oh, you speak good English, because I feel like that is really, that is like some people say, oh, are you from Jamaica? I hear people tell me and I'm like, I'm Nigerian. Why are you assuming I'm Jamaica? Oh, you speak like Jamaica. I'll be like, oh my gosh.
Yes.
They don't know this is so wrong. You're not supposed to speak like this.
So I think that's where there's still a lot of work to be done from that perspective. I do think when you break down, how you're talking about when you're from the UK and mentioning where you're from, what I've also learned over time is that people don't really care because if people are going to like you, they're going to like you. If you're connecting with people, you're going to connect with people. And so, I've learned that the hard way as well, is that you spend so much time in your own head sometimes as well, when really people don't really care if you're from Calgary, Vancouver, wherever you're from. They just care that you're Selena and you're someone that they can connect with, or they're Mariat.
Look for this tribe.
Yes. And that is where your tribe is so important, right? In terms of building your own squad, finding your cheerleaders, and building your own personal board of directors. And that doesn't mean they have to look like you. We don't want that. You need to have diversity because there's also diversity of thought. People that are going to challenge you. Often we pick cheerleaders who support us and believe in us, but your true cheerleaders aren't the ones who agree with everything you say, validate all your strengths, because hopefully you have enough self-awareness to know what your strengths are.
Of course.
Those are the ones who are going to challenge you with your blind spots. They are the ones who are going to challenge you to go outside your comfort zone and to think differently. My whole philosophy is that you need to surround yourself with people who are builders, who are creators, who are doers, who are makers, people who are dreamers, people who believe in you, people that are going to push you, because they are the ones who are going to help you return to your higher self over and over and over again.
I love that.
And those are the people you need.
I would take that anytime, any day, 1000%. I love that challenge because at the end of the day, no one is perfect and you got to learn. You're coming out of your comfort zone. It's where a lot of magic happens, really. Yeah. So if I have people who challenge me and push me to be my best, I love that. And I would take that over people that compete for me not to be their best.
Absolutely.
So we talk about empowered women, empower women, right?
Yes.
I've seen it and I felt the energy when you be in a room and you be like, the same people who have this narrative don't empower or feels threatened by you in the room. So what's your take on that? Because I feel like someone like you walk in the room. First of all, Selena, you are a goddess in the sense that when you walk in the room, every time that I've noticed you, I want to just come check out your wardrobe anyway. You are well put together, which I love. And I think that's the thing you're doing because that gives you power, class, control in a good way.
Thank you.
And it makes people respect you and believe you. So I always tell people presentation is so important, your personal brand, and you do that really well. So there's no other person I can imagine doing Dress for Success. So those are the things I've noticed when I see you. I see respect immediately. And I've always seen the genuinity about you supporting another, and they don't have to look like you, because I'm sitting down here, Selena.
Yes. One of my cheerleaders, and I love being your cheerleader. That's what I mean. Like, you need to have magic when you're together. You need to have that energy. Yes. You gotta have the
why
spark.
the competition?
I don't know. I think, you know, I spend a lot of time kind of thinking about this as well. You know, I had my own experiences early in my career with, you know, women in powerhouse roles where I was working, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. How do I learn from them? But they don't give you their time. And I don't know why. I think for some women, maybe because they had to work really hard to get themselves there. And I understand that. And maybe, you know, back then it was just very different times, I suppose, versus now. But for me, I just look at what can I control, because competition's always there, but it's not always a bad thing. So the way I look at it is, okay, how do I shift this narrative? And how do I look at someone and turn that competition to, okay, they're my role model, because how do I learn from them as to how they got to where they are? So you stop thinking about that scarcity mindset and wanting something you don't have that somebody else has, but more shifting it to what can I learn from them? But if they're not matching your energy, then that's okay.
But let's do the reverse. That is what the person who's competing over you needs to be thinking about. Why the scarcity mindset? Yeah. Because there's enough at the top.
Yeah, and you know what?
There's enough space.
I believe, like, when I think about how I live all facets of my life is really with this abundance mindset, in that there is enough room for everybody at the top, wherever you want to go, whatever business you're trying to launch. But for me, I can't control if other women feel that way. All I can control is, okay, how do I ensure that that energy isn't creeping into my energy space? Because we can't change that. And it goes back to, again, be the person you once needed. We've all had bad experiences.
Be the person you once needed. I like that again. That affirmation.
But that breaks the cycle, right? Because we've all had bad experiences. But if you experience not an ideal situation, and then you take that and pass it down to another young woman who's building their career, well, now you've just broken that cycle. You're adding to that broken cycle, actually.
Because if you help one, you've helped many. Yeah. And just the same thing you said about, you know, when you do the Dress for Success and you look at those women you help, because if you've helped somebody and you push them forward, you've helped their whole community.
Well, so, not only that, I feel like if you give your time to somebody else, and let's say you give time to another woman, and she experiences your gift of time and your knowledge and whatnot, and they experience that mentorship and sponsorship, then they're going to now take their amazing experience and give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the beauty of giving your time. People experience it, they see it, they're going to give their time to somebody else. And that's how it kind of continues, because you need to take that first step. And, you know, I always say, I think I said this, you know, previously in a different article or whatnot. You mentioned Carol Lee earlier. Years ago, there was this podcast I was doing, and I asked her to be a guest on the podcast. She didn't know me. She didn't know anything. She said yes. And I just thought, wow, this powerhouse community leader is saying yes to quote unquote nobody. So it really inspired me to say yes to other people,
yeah,
that are asking me for help for different things. And so I think, back to your original question, we can't control that competition piece. I think all we can control is our, like, aura, I guess you can say, of energy, and look at that as, like, how can we do things differently? And then also looking at other women more as role models and what you can learn from them versus you seeing them as competition.
True. 100%. Wow. Selena Woo. Wow.
Mariat.
We're just going to have to brand your name somewhere, because, like, so tell us about this Dress for Success. I want to know more about it, because I think you're the chair for the, tell us about it. You're the chair for the luncheon coming up in November, you mentioned.
That's correct. So it's November 25th is the Success Luncheon. And really, it's one of the most impactful, meaningful fundraisers that we do for Dress for Success. And it really is around the power of possibilities. And when we are able to contribute and to raise funds for women and the programs that Dress for Success runs, then again, it's a ripple effect, and is really giving women hope of the possibilities of what her future could look like, and the future of her family and the community. So it's bringing together business leaders, philanthropists, you know, individuals who want to contribute to a fantastic cause in helping women. And for Dress for Success, it wasn't actually until last year when I started delivering workshops that you learn about all the programs that they offer for the women.
That's where I was going to go, because I'm sure
I assume it's more for like dressing,
a lot of people
suiting.
will be like, what are the programs and what is all of this? How can I get involved with Dress for Success? Because there's so many more women out there, because I'm just a big champion for women too, right? And I always feel it like, coming from England, they're talking about England in a positive way. Nigerian too, they love to dress. Like, there's no way you put yourself together. Like, you don't look professional. That people will think like, oh, are you just going for tea somewhere, or rather like going in the office? You got to put yourself together so that people take you seriously, that you're a professional.
It gives yourself confidence as well.
It gives yourself confidence as well. And it's really amazing. There's something about it when you're really well put together. You know what I mean? Like, you step out there, like,
I've always loved fashion. I have to say, I've always loved fashion. And even though, my mom was an immigrant from China, like she was a big fashionista as well. So you kind of just pass it down. Even today, I have handbags that are passing me down and whatnot.
You can't just go to office and with a thing like that, like, where you going? Like, you got to put your suit on and everything,
Yeah, for sure.
So talking about Dress for, finish that statement.
Yeah. So for Dress for Success, it's beyond just the suiting. So for volunteering, you can be donated clothing, work in their styling that they have. But they also have professional women's groups where you can be a mentor to them, and you can deliver workshops on various aspects: confidence, personal branding. They have virtual workshops as well. Quite often it's open to the public.
Where do you get the clothes from?
Donations. Donations that people can donate. Yeah. So handbags, accessories, clothing, typically more business clothing for women. But I think this is like a key thread. It's a key thread for women. And I'm just excited that Amanda, who's the executive director for Dress for Success, had reached out for me to participate and to lead.
That's awesome. And I couldn't just imagine who could be there. Like, I tell you, look at the way she's put up together. I wish the camera can just give you a kind of like, glam up right now, so we can see the shoes, the skirt, the blazer.
Thank you. You're amazing as well.
There's no other person I can think about, honestly. So thank you for the incredible work you do every day out. And, being a mom and still showing up for communities, not just community, but communities,
And I think the communities piece is, I think for all of us, we all have a story to tell. And so what's our story? And how are we being intentional about that? So when I look around everything that I'm saying yes to and the work that I'm doing, it's a story of me as a Chinese woman and a parent. So that's where, financial and I'm also in the finance industry, financial services. Yeah. And so I think about financial literacy. So that's where, junior achievement comes in, really working with youth and financial literacy, because I have young kids. So that's youth. And then me being Chinese, that's the Vancouver Chinatown Foundation. How can we bring Chinatown and revitalize Chinatown? And then the other aspects like Dress for Success and the forum and whatnot, that's around women. So it's really my own personal story and the pillars that I'm really thinking about in terms of how I.
The way you said it, everyone has a personal story, a deep story even. And it's just like what we do, we better, not better. We say one conversation at a time.
I love that.
Because everyone's story is so big and deep enough to inspire, motivate, and change. It's a game changer. So as soon as we all start being vulnerable to tell our pattern story, and someone needs that for empowerment as well, and say, you know what? I feel seen. I'm not alone. I can get here, because I'm sure there's so many women out there looking up to you. Say, I can be Selena too, Not literally, not like Selena, but
your own person. But yes, I see. I know what you mean. But
affirmation again. Yes. The person I thought.
Be the person you once needed. Right. It is such a powerful thing that I always kind of live by. And again, when you share your story, everyone has a beautiful story with ups and downs and challenges that we persevere through, but no one starts at the finish line. So then what's that story that you want to teach others around your lessons that you've learned along the way? I mean, I'm not even at my finish line yet. I don't even know what my finish line looks like, right? And so it's teaching young kids as well as you can have a nonlinear career path. What would that look like? What risks can you take? What left turns and right turns? Because that is at the end of the day, we are walking this long, winding road of life. That is the reality. And I find often, even for women or youth or next gen, we think so much around needing an answer to something, right? And like, okay, if I choose this job, if I do A, will it lead to B? But the beauty of life is so full of uncertainties. You can't actually work towards an answer. And it's funny. I always tell my kids,
That's a really good way
yeah,
to kind of curb anxiety too,
it
right?
is. We're always
Just
like, am I making the right decision? Am I not? What would happen? But at the end of the day, if you said to yourself, okay, 10 years from today, if I'm talking to myself 10 years from today, will I have all the answers? Will I have it all figured out? I don't think so.
no,
And we're all on our way. But how
the
you get
journey.
there, it is up to you.
Yeah.
Right. And so what are the things you're working on and what are the things that you're doing to get yourself there?
And I'm happy that we have incredible leaders in the community like you
Yeah, thank you.
showing up and really truly supporting other people and say, how do you get there? I'm here. Let's
I'm here.
support you.
Supports you with
Thank
abundance
you.
mindset. And, back to the thing about title and job earlier. I mean, I'm sure you've experienced this, Mariat, and I'm guilty of it too. When my kids were younger, with the, back to school signs, is always asking like, "What do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to be?" And I've actually
That puts so much fear in us, because we feel like,
yes,
what about if I change my mind and I can't tell my dad I'm going to change my mind? I don't want to be there,
Sure. And I've shifted that now with the kids and with other youth that I'm speaking to or young adults. It's not so much the what, it's the who. So even now I ask my kids, who do you want to become? What kind of person do you want to become?
I don't want to lose this. So, it's not the what, it's
the who.
Who do you want to
become? Because that is impact. That's how you're going to make a difference. Is your character.
So let's tell the audience as we're going to round this up, because this is so powerful. And I want people to remember 2 amazing affirmations you've left today. And one is about to be the person
you once needed.
So be the person you once needed, and not what you want to become, but who you want to become. Selena, well, this has been an amazing conversation. I could go on and on with you because you're just an incredible leader, and I really want everyone to hear your voice, see who you are, this amazing person doing so much incredible work. And you should be recognized for all of the stuff you do, Selena. And you said I'm your cheerleader. I'm more than a cheerleader, so we need to find what word we should use, not cheerleader. But because I see you, and even though you don't have the representation for me, but it feels good because I look at it and I said, that's a woman from a marginalized community doing those incredible work.
Thank you.
And I see her, and that's so powerful for me. So thank you for taking the time to join us today on Unfiltered with Mariat podcast. It's just been amazing talking with you. And thank you for all the nuggets and all the wisdom you've shared today. We're just so grateful to have you.
Love it. Well, thank you so much for having me, Mariat. Really appreciate it and so grateful.
Thank you.